right there, mister.
And then he decides that I should get the same tattoo. And I am thrilled at the prospect. This is my hero, and I'm going to get a tattoo just like my hero at the same time, right? This is the greatest thing ever. So I don't know how the tattoo artist got talked into it, but they sat me down in the chair, and the tattoo artist got ready to go, and Chuck Courtney's girlfriend grabbed me and said, "This is not happening."
Hi, my name is Rob Word. Welcome to A Word on Westerns, and today we have an exciting show for you because we've got somebody I've been trying to get on our show for a long time. He was a little kid when I started to want him on the show. In fact, he was the little kid on Laramie. That's right, it's Dennis Holmes today. Dennis, you look older now. You are older. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's good to see you again.
Well, good to see you, too. I know we've done film festivals together, and your stories were so terrific that that's really why I wanted you to come on and share some of them with us. So you've got a lot of fans out there, and the people that watch this show are big Western fans, and they've seen probably all of the Laramie episodes, and they want to know, what the hell happened to Bobby Crawford?
Yeah, exactly. That's the start of the interesting stories. I had never met Bobby Crawford until I met him at one of the festivals of the West in Arizona. And we were talking, and we were talking about that issue of him leaving the show. And I said, yeah, my mom told me that that you left the show on, it was your decision that you wanted to go back to school, and that you left the show on purpose. And he goes, "That's not true at all. I got fired." So I think they told me that story to make me feel better. But I love Bobby Crawford. He has become a good and true friend, and I'm really glad to have had the experience of hanging around with him a few times. I've gone over to his house and played poker a few times, but since COVID, that kind of slowed down a little bit.
Oh, it has.
I look forward to going back and doing that some more. Maybe you can come join us one night.
Well, I might be able to do that. I'm looking forward to busting out of the house too, and we'll do another interview with you when we have an audience at the Autry. That'll be great.
Yeah, that would be really fun.
Laramie, then, how did you get cast in that part? Because they created a new character for you.
I was under contract to 20th Century Fox at the time. I think I was one of the last kids to go through the studio system. I went to work every day at Fox downtown, whether I was filming anything or not. I went down to the Little Red Schoolhouse and sat in there alone. And I went to school every day and then got to wander the lot. It was a wonderful experience. The movies I did there were amazingly fun to do, and I got to do pretty much anything I wanted in the prop department or on one of the empty stages when nobody was around and I wasn't working. So anyway, all of a sudden, I heard that Review at the time had bought my contract from 20th Century Fox. And I pretty much just went from going every day to work at one studio to going to work every day at another studio. There was pretty much no downtime in between. And I picked right up with Laramie, and boy, that was the best time of my life, those 2 years.
How was it with Bob Fuller and John Smith? Because they were buddies already after 2 years, and you know how long hours are in a TV series. So to join them, did they accept you right away?
They had a philosophy about Laramie, and pretty much everybody did. We were all thankful to be there, and we were happy to be there. We all worked together well. There was no one that was a prima donna. There was no one that showed up and didn't know their lines or didn't know what the scenes were. It was just a happy unit that worked together well. Spring Byington was hilarious, a great foil for Bob and John. Bob and John were big pranksters. So, there was always something going on.
What did Spring Byington do to endear herself to you three?
Like I said, she was a really warm, funny person. She played kind of a hard person in some of her parts, but she was pretty much how she appears on screen in Laramie. She kept Bob and John under control. She'd been in 200 movies by then. I mean, she was a queen of the silver screen and color movies and TV. So she had done it all and seen it all. Bob and John were just some kind of jokesters, I think, for sure. But, we really did have a very warm and tight set. We really liked each other. We liked hanging around with each other. And we loved coming to work each day. So, I know I've heard of sets where people weren't happy, and I've heard of strife on the set, but that was never present on the Laramie set.
Well, so many of the Universal contract players did guest spots on that series, too. I mean, you had big stars coming in all the time to work on that show. Dan Duryea had been a contract player at Universal, and he did several episodes. Bob was so excited when Jock Mahoney, who had been his idol, came in to do an episode.
I think I sold him a bad horse.
Now, had you been a horseback rider before you went on to Laramie?
Growing up as a kid, my grandparents had horses. I'd been on horses. My sisters loved horses. There was a stable near where I grew up, so I'd been around them. But really, Richard Brim, the wrangler on Laramie, took me under his wing a little bit and taught me the ins and outs of riding in movies, which is a little different than just riding around the stable or riding around the hills. They did occasionally let me take my horse out for a ride in the afternoons when there was nothing to do. And at the time, the back lot of Universal was huge and full of nothing but deer and scrub, pretty much.
Bob did most of his own stunts, if not all of them. Did you have any action scenes that were fairly dangerous that you remember as a youngster?
I don't know about dangerous. I had some action scenes, and I did my own stunts in Laramie pretty much for what that was worth. I did a scene where I was, drug across the corral by a horse, stuff like that. But, nothing really too dangerous ever. And they would have never let me do anything dangerous. Safety was always the primary concern when it came to me. Now, those guys, yeah, they were willing to take some chances. But personally, they would never let me get anywhere near harm. Everything was done with proper camera angles and just the proper cuts to make it look like I was doing more than I was.
So I know Bob has a tattoo, and you have one too. When did you get that? What's the tattoo story?
That is a good story. I was 11, I think, and we went out to dinner in downtown LA at a wonderful Japanese restaurant with the heads of the Japanese fan club that were over visiting. And, oh my gosh, I had a wonderful time. It was, very traditional with geishas serving and the whole thing. It was beautiful, but the sake was flowing.
And you were 11?
Bob was there. Chuck Courtney, his best friend, was not there, but Chuck Courtney's girlfriend was, and Bob's girlfriend was. So we are walking to the car afterwards, and we happen to be parked outside of a tattoo parlor. And Bob decides he wants to get a tattoo. So we go in, and Bob basically, I think he picked out the first thing he saw. He picks out a cherry, and he gets that tattoo. And then he decides that I should get the same tattoo. And I am thrilled at the prospect. This is my hero, and I'm going to get a tattoo just like my hero at the same time, right? This is the greatest thing ever. So I don't know how the tattoo artist got talked into it, but they sat me down in the chair, and the tattoo artist got ready to go, and Chuck Courtney Courtney's girlfriend grabbed me, said, "This is not happening," and pulled me outside. You know what I should do is I should just go ahead and get that tattoo. All these years I've been thinking about it and talking about it. So I went and got a tattoo. I went to a tattoo artist I know, and I got that tattoo on my leg in the same spot that Robert got his. And I presented it at one of the shows. I surprised him with it. When we were telling that story, I said, "Well, guess what? I just went and got the tattoo." And I showed it to him, and he thought it was a decal. He thought it was fake. But I showed him it was real. So, I love Robert. I do. And, my mom loved Robert. My mom and Robert talked every week till the day she died. So, it was a wonderful feeling for me to be able to give a little tribute to Robert after all these years.
And it's nice, too, that you all have been able to reconnect because of all these fan conventions, and that Laramie is on several channels running every day. What's that like for you?
Well, people that are my friends that I've only known in the last few years are quite surprised. They will call me up and go, "Do you know you're on my TV right now?" I'm like, "Yeah, really." Also, when I was in my 20s and probably my 30s and continuing to this day, in a general way, when I meet people, I do not tell them anything about my sordid past as a child actor. No, I just don't. I want people to meet me as me before they, see me as a part of a genre or group. A short career as a child actor.
After Laramie ended, you still continued to do quite a bit of work at Universal, and you did an episode of The Virginian that was shot at the same house that was used on Laramie.
Just that part of it was a little bit odd.
John Agar is an outlaw that James Drury's coming to find, and he ends up discovering you and your mom, played by Sherry North, at a rundown ranch, and he stays to help and sort of falls in love with her, which is the outline for the story for Hound-Dog.
Exactly. It's definitely a remake of Hound-Dog. And I feel so lucky to have been involved. I normally am fairly disparaging of my own work, but I really feel like that was one of the best jobs that I ever did, acting.
You actually have done some terrific work. I mean, The Woman Obsessed, of course, you got a lot of accolades, but as a kid, the reason you kept getting hired is because you hit your mark, you delivered, you gave the performance. And so The Virginian, those were like movies. Those were 90-minute stories.
My mom said early in my career that I was never going to be the person on set that didn't know their lines. And she made that happen. I was never the person on set that did not know their lines or what they were doing that day. I may have not done the greatest job of acting, but I showed up and I did my job every day. And I think that did count for something anyway.
What was James Drury like as the Virginian?
Fantastic. Like I said, that was one of the reasons I feel like I did such a great job. He was wonderful to act against. Just did a fantastic job in that episode, I thought, also, and a lot of episodes of The Virginian. One thing, I know he did 1 million episodes of The Virginian, but when I finally met him again, like 50 years later, he acted like he remembered me. And I don't think I doubt if he really did, but he acted like I was an old friend that he had not seen in years and pretended that he remembered me. So, I maybe because of the water bug sequence, maybe he did remember me, but I don't know. I kind of doubt it, but it was still sweet to see him. And I'm sure sorry he passed recently.
He was such a good friend of Bob Fuller's. They were very close, as you know.
Yeah. Just a really fun guy. I'm so glad I got to meet him and hang out with him before he passed away finally. After all these years, to hang around with him was a real pleasure.
Yeah. Well, you also at Universal did several episodes of Wagon Train, and I think one of them was later on after Ward Bond was gone, and Bob Fuller was the trail boss. He was the scout, and you were in an episode with Fuller.
Yeah, but I never saw him or talked to him in that episode.
That's too bad. They should have arranged something for you guys to have a scene together.
You know, I did see him years later. I went and visited him. On the set of Finder of Lost Loves in the 80s. My dad was the gaffer, and Robert was doing an episode where he goes up in a biplane. So I went out to the airport and watched Robert fly around in a biplane for a couple hours with the camera mounted on the front. That was pretty interesting.
So I want to thank you for doing this Zoom interview and look forward to seeing you when we can be together again, too.